Welcome back to the podcast to Philly. We're going to take a deep dive today into Mark Zuckerberg's predictions
Oh, yeah.
about AI
Yeah.
and coding.
Yeah.
It's specifically, he's saying that AI is going to be coding like mid-level engineers
Right.
by 2025, which is wild to think about.
Yeah.
So we've got all kinds of stuff to dig into today. We've got articles.
Yep.
We've got transcripts from Zuckerberg's interview
Mhm.
on Joe Rogan.
Mhm.
And we've even got some stuff from Philip Waterloose
Oh, cool.
from Lee Podcast to Philip. So we're going to look at like what this means for the industry as a whole. We're going to see like specific examples of companies that are actually changing what they're doing
Yeah.
because of this prediction.
Right.
And then we'll even think about like
Right.
what you can do
Mhm.
to make sure you're prepared.
Yeah, for sure.
So should we jump in?
Let's do it.
Okay. I think what's so interesting about Zuckerberg's claim
Mm-hmm.
is that it's not like he's just some random person making a guess.
Right.
He's like actively investing in AI
Totally. He's like putting his money where his mouth is.
at Meta.
Yeah.
And he's like
Yeah.
actually predicting that this change is going to impact
Yeah.
not just Meta,
Right.
but like all of tech.
All of tech. Mm-hmm.
So let's break it down. Like, what does he actually mean when he says that AI
Right.
is going to be coding like a mid-level engineer?
Yeah. Is it going to take over entire projects? Or is it going to be more like specific tasks?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I'm not sure if it's like you give it a project and it just spits out a whole app.
Right.
I think it's more like
Yeah.
AI is going to be handling those tasks that programmers typically do.
Uh-huh.
So things like debugging,
Yeah,
Keep
debugging.
writing unit tests,
Yeah.
even like
Mhm.
generating code from like a basic set of instructions.
Totally. Like taking those repetitive tasks that take up so much time
Right.
and just automating them.
Yeah. And that's where the like efficiency comes in
Exactly.
that Zuckerberg's always talking about.
Yeah, he's all about efficiency.
But isn't that a little bit like saying that like tractors replaced farmers?
Oh, that's interesting.
That's sure.
Yeah.
The tools changed,
Mm-hmm.
But we still need people to like manage those tools.
Right.
So are we all just going to become like coding farmers?
The coding farmers, yeah, we're like,
managing the AI.
yeah, managing the AI that's doing the real work.
Right. That's a really good analogy. And actually, Zuckerberg uses a similar one. He talks about the shift from agriculture to industry,
Oh, interesting.
where fewer people were needed on farms, but all these new jobs emerged in manufacturing
Yeah,
and other fields.
right.
So he thinks the same thing's going to happen with coding. AI will handle the routine stuff,
Mhm.
but humans will still be needed for
Yeah.
the more creative and strategic work.
Okay, so let's say I'm a programmer listening to this. Should I be freaking out?
I don't think freaking out ever helps.
Right, but like, should I be worried? I think it's more about seeing this as an opportunity to level up. You know, Zuckerberg and a lot of other leaders, like Linus Torvalds and Satya Nadella, they all agree that like
Right.
the role of programmers is going to change.
Okay.
It's going to evolve. So instead of focusing on just writing code, you might be more involved in design or problem solving or even managing teams of AI coders.
Okay, so like less coding farmer
Yeah,
and more coding architect.
exactly. You got it.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I think there are people out there who are like genuinely worried
Oh, for sure.
about their jobs.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's like scared that they could be replaced by a robot?
I mean, change is scary.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to your job. But if you look at history, every time we've had a major technological advancement, people have worried about losing their jobs. But it's always also led to new opportunities.
There you
So
go.
the key is to be adaptable, embrace lifelong learning,
Yeah.
and focus on developing those uniquely human skills. So like, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Exactly the best way to future-proof your career is to be a continuous learner.
That's a great point. But even if individuals adapt,
Yeah.
there's still the bigger societal impacts to think about. Like if companies like Salesforce aren't hiring engineers,
Mm-hmm.
what happens to all those potential jobs? Does Zuckerberg's vision account for that?
Yeah, that's a really important point, and that's definitely something we need to discuss more. Zuckerberg is optimistic about AI creating more jobs, not fewer.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see if that actually happens.
Yeah, it's complicated.
For sure.
So for now,
Mm-hmm.
let's stick with Zuckerberg's vision.
One thing that really jumped out at me in these articles was this idea of infinite productivity. It sounds kind of crazy.
It does.
Like, is that even possible?
Well, that's what Zuckerberg's claiming. He says that with AI doing so much of the work, productivity could just explode,
Yeah.
leading to tons of new businesses and products and services.
So instead of worrying about job losses,
Yeah.
we should be imagining a world of like
abundance,
where
Yeah.
everyone can just like
Create and build, innovate.
create whatever they want. That's the idea.
Wow.
It's a bold vision.
It is.
And whether it actually happens remains to be seen.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting thought. But before we get too carried away with the good stuff, I think we need to spend some time exploring the potential downsides too.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's exactly what we're going to be doing in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. Okay, so let's talk about some of those potential downsides.
Yeah, like what are the things that keep you up at night when you think about AI taking over coding?
Well, one that comes to mind immediately is bias.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. We've already seen how AI systems can reflect the biases of the people who created them or the data they were trained on.
Exactly.
So if AI is writing code, how do we make sure that code is fair and
Yeah.
impartial?
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
And one that researchers are really focused on right now. There's a lot of work being done on building AI systems that are transparent and explainable and accountable.
So we can understand how they're making decisions.
Right,
And
exactly.
make sure those decisions aren't based on some kind of hidden bias.
Yeah, it's about being really intentional about the data used to train these systems and developing techniques to detect and mitigate bias.
So it's not just about building AI that can code. It's about building AI that can code ethically.
Exactly. We need to make sure that the code AI generates is actually aligned with our values.
That's a good point. And it makes me think about another potential downside.
What's that?
Security.
Uh-oh.
Like if AI can write code,
Yeah.
couldn't it also be used to write malicious code?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Could we see like a surge in AI-powered cyber attacks?
It's possible.
Or like malware that's so sophisticated that we can't even detect it?
Right.
That's a scary thought.
It is, and it's something that security researchers are taking very seriously. As AI gets more powerful, we need to develop even stronger security measures.
So it's like a constant game of cat and mouse.
Yeah, kind of.
As AI gets better at writing code,
Yeah.
we need to get better at securing that code.
Exactly. It's an ongoing arms race.
But at the end of the day, AI itself isn't good or bad.
Right.
It's just a tool.
It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for evil.
It all depends on the humans behind it.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit
Yeah.
and talk about something else Zuckerberg mentioned. Personalized AI agents.
Oh, yeah, those are interesting.
What are those exactly?
Well, think of it like a super advanced digital assistant, but tailored specifically to you, your needs, your goals.
Like a personal Jarvis from Iron Man?
Yeah, kind of like that.
So how would that actually help with coding?
Well, imagine being able to just describe what you want to build in plain English.
Wow.
And your AI agent just translates that into code.
That would be amazing.
Right. Or it could suggest code snippets, or identify potential bugs, or even optimize your code for performance.
Sounds like it could make coding so much easier.
It could, and that's part of Zuckerberg's vision. He wants to democratize access to coding so that anyone can build software,
Yeah,
even if they don't have a computer science degree.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But it also makes me wonder, if AI agents are doing so much of the work, will humans even need to learn to code anymore?
That's a great question, and it's one that we don't really know the answer to yet. It's possible that the need to write code from scratch will diminish,
Okay.
but I think there will always be a need for humans to understand the fundamentals of coding.
So it's less about replacing human programmers
Yeah.
and more about changing the focus of their work.
Exactly. We might see more roles that involve designing and managing AI agents,
Right.
or ensuring their ethical behavior, or integrating their output into larger systems.
So there will still be plenty of work for humans to do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's just going to be different kind of work.
Right.
It sounds like we're entering a whole new era of technology.
We are, and it's not just programmers who need to be thinking about this.
We're just going to impact everyone.
Everyone, businesses, educators, policymakers.
They all need to start thinking about how to prepare for this future.
Absolutely.
Okay, so speaking of the future, one thing that I'm still grappling with is the potential impact on jobs. Even if AI creates new opportunities, there's no guarantee that the people who lose their jobs because of AI will be the ones who benefit from those new opportunities.
That's true.
So what do we do about that?
Well, I think it highlights the need for proactive measures to support workers who might be displaced by AI.
What kind of measures?
Things like retraining programs or job placement assistance, or even exploring new economic models like universal basic income.
It sounds like this is a much bigger conversation than just the future of coding.
Liz.
This is about the future of work itself.
Exactly.
And how we adapt to these rapid technological changes.
And it's a conversation that we need to be having at all levels of society.
I agree. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the technical details of AI coding to the broader societal implications. But there's one more piece of Zuckerberg's vision that I want to circle back to, and that's this concept of infinite productivity.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
What do you make of that? What does a world even look like, where one engineer can do the work of 100 or 1,000?
It's hard to even fathom.
Yeah?
Zuckerberg compares it to the invention of the printing press.
Oh, interesting.
Before that, knowledge had to be copied by hand. It was a slow and laborious process.
Right.
But then suddenly, information could be spread much faster, and it led to huge changes in society.
So he's saying that AI coding will have that same kind of impact, but on the creation of software.
Exactly.
So instead of just spreading information faster, we're talking about building new things faster, solving problems faster, maybe even innovating at a pace we can't even imagine right now.
That's the idea.
It's mind-blowing.
It is.
But let's try to bring this back down to earth for a second.
Yeah.
If I'm listening to this, and I'm not a coder, why should I care about infinite productivity in the tech world?
Because it's not just about tech. If software can be built infinitely faster and cheaper, it affects every aspect of our lives.
How so?
Think about it. Healthcare, education, transportation, entertainment, all of these areas rely on software.
So if we could build better software faster, it could lead to breakthroughs in all of these fields.
Exactly.
So it's not just about coders being more productive.
Yeah.
It's about the entire world becoming more productive.
That's Zuckerberg's argument.
Wow.
He even thinks it could lead to more jobs.
More jobs?
Yeah, not fewer. Just like the internet boom created jobs that didn't exist before.
Okay, so maybe there's hope for those coding farmers after all.
Maybe.
But let's not forget about the potential downsides.
Right.
The bias, the security risks, the ethical considerations.
Because those are still important.
We need to be thinking about those things, even as we get excited about the possibilities.
Absolutely.
It's like we're being handed this incredibly powerful tool, but we don't have the instruction manual.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
So how do we prepare for a future where the rules are constantly changing, where what we know about coding today might be obsolete tomorrow?
That's the challenge, isn't it? I think the key is to focus on the fundamentals.
What do you mean?
Things like problem solving, critical thinking, adaptability. These are skills that will always be valuable.
Regardless of what specific technologies are popular.
Exactly.
So be curious.
Yeah.
Stay informed. And be willing to learn new things.
That's the best way to stay ahead of the curve.
It sounds like you need a healthy dose of courage, too,
Oh, definitely.
to embrace the unknown.
Yeah, you have to be comfortable with change.
Zuckerberg himself is a good example of that.
How so?
He dropped out of Harvard to pursue his vision.
That's true.
Sometimes you have to take risks
You do?
and trust your gut.
That's what it takes to be an innovator.
So it's not just about waiting for the future to happen.
Yeah.
It's about actively shaping it.
I love that.
Which brings us back to the big question. What does the future of coding hold?
If I had a crystal ball, I'd tell you.
Right.
But the truth is, none of us knows for sure.
Oh.
But what we can do is have these conversations, explore the possibilities, and prepare ourselves for whatever comes next.
That's a good point. We've talked about a lot of complex ideas today,
We-
but I hope listeners are walking away with a sense of both the potential and the challenges that AI brings to the world of coding.
I hope so too.
It's an exciting time to be alive,
It is.
and it's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out. So in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to tackle that big question. What does infinite productivity actually mean? And what are the implications for all of us? All right, so we've talked about the good and the bad, the ups and downs of this AI coding revolution. But that idea of infinite productivity that Zuckerberg keeps bringing up, that's what's really stuck with me. What does that even mean? Like, what does a world look like where one engineer can crank out the work of like 100 or even 1,000?
It's almost like trying to wrap your head around a world without gravity. It's that big a concept.
Right. And Zuckerberg uses that analogy of the printing press. Like before, knowledge was copied by hand. Right. It took forever.
Exactly.
And then boom, suddenly information could be spread like exponentially faster.
Yeah.
And and it led to these massive shifts in society.
Huge changes. Yeah.
And he seems to think that AI coding is going to be like that, but for creating software. Like it's going to be that level of disruptive.
Yeah, instead of just spreading information faster, we're talking about building new things faster, better, cheaper, and solving problems at a pace that we can't even really grasp right now.
Okay, so let's say I'm listening to this, right? And I'm not a coder. Why should I even care about all this infinite productivity stuff happening in the tech world?
Because it's not just about tech. I think that's the thing people miss. It's about everything. If software can be built infinitely faster and cheaper and more customized, that changes everything. It changes healthcare, it changes education, transportation, even entertainment.
So you're saying it's not just about coders becoming more productive, but it's about like the whole world becoming more productive because of the code they're helping to create.
Exactly. It's a ripple effect, right? Like Zuckerberg even argues that this could lead to an explosion of new jobs.
More jobs.
More jobs, not fewer. Just like the internet. When the internet boomed, it created all these jobs that nobody could have predicted.
Okay, so maybe there's hope for those coding farmers we were talking about?
Yeah, maybe.
But we can't forget those downsides, right? The bias in the code, the security risks, the ethical stuff. Like those problems don't magically go away just because we have more productivity.
No, they don't. And that's why it's so important to be talking about these things now. We have to start figuring out the guardrails, the rules, the ethical frameworks, the training that humans need to really manage this new era of AI coding. Because infinite productivity without some kind of responsible oversight, that could be a recipe for disaster.
It's like being handed the keys to a supercar without the driver's manual.
Oh, I like that.
Like exhilarating, but also pretty dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. And that kind of brings us back to a question that we touched on earlier. Like, how do we even prepare for a future where the rules are constantly changing, where what we know about coding today could be totally obsolete tomorrow?
It's a tough one. Even schools and education systems are struggling to keep up with the pace of tech right now.
Right.
So what advice would you give to someone who's like just starting out in their career or even thinking about switching to tech?
Focus on the fundamentals, like problem solving, critical thinking, the ability to adapt to new situations. Those are the skills that will always be valuable, no matter what tools and languages are popular at the moment. And be curious, stay informed, experiment with new tech. Like, don't be afraid to jump in and get your hands dirty.
So basically a willingness to learn and a good dose of courage.
Yeah, that's the spirit that's going to thrive in this new era. Look at Zuckerberg himself. He dropped out of Harvard to pursue his vision. Sometimes you gotta take those risks. You gotta trust your gut.
That's pretty inspiring, actually. It's not about just waiting for the future to happen. It's about making it happen, right?
Yeah.
Like taking an active role.
Absolutely.
And that brings us back to the big question we started with. What does the future of coding actually hold?
Yeah. I don't know if anyone can really say for sure, but I think what we can do is keep having these conversations, explore the possibilities, but also the risks, and make sure we're prepared mentally, skill-wise to handle whatever comes next.
That's a great point to end on. We've gone through a lot of complicated ideas today.
Yeah.
But I really hope that people listening are coming away with a sense of both the incredible potential, but also the very real challenges that AI brings to the world of coding.
I agree. It's not about blind optimism or being scared. It's about being informed. And with that knowledge, I really believe that we can build a future where AI helps us, where it empowers us and doesn't diminish us.
Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with us into Mark Zuckerberg's predictions. We'll be back soon with more fascinating explorations of the world of tech. So make sure to subscribe to Le Podcast de Philippe on YouTube so you don't miss an episode. And until then, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep building the future you want to see.